Hi guys, so I'm trying to catch up on some of the requests for videos. I know I'm a little bit behind, so I apologize to some of you that have asked for certain videos and I'm behind. I'm going to try to catch up on those in the next few days or weeks. But this video is in response to somebody asking for me to do a video on stalking. So why do narcissists and sociopaths and psychopaths stalk? Okay, so one thing I read that I don't have all the information on this, but I did read that sometimes if you're dealing with actually a psychopath, like they might not stalk actually. If they have been sort of exposed or wounded, they may just sort of slink quietly away. That's also can also be true. So I read for some of the covert narcissists, if you created a strong enough narcissistic injury. That's what I read. I don't know for sure what the statistics are on that, but why would a narcissist stalk its sort of prey, especially if they've already like discarded, especially if they went through that 3 phases of the relationship, the idealization, the devaluation, and the discard. And of course, they always discard once they've secured a new source of supply, right? They'll never discard if they haven't secured a new source of supply because they cannot be alone. So, one thing to note, if you're wondering if the person you are with is a narcissist or not, is did they have a break in the relationship? Was there a break, a substantial break for them to heal, go to therapy, do some work, look at why maybe the relationship ended, do some self-reflection and introspection? Or was there overlap? Is there overlap in all of their relationships or very few gaps? Emotionally mature, healthy people take a break after a heartbreak or after a relationship to figure out what was their part? Why, what did they do to cause or have a part in the dysfunction? That's what healthy people do, but narcissists don't. So if you're dealing with somebody who either there was overlap or they slipped right into a new relationship after they were in a relationship with you, it could have been 10, 15, 20 years, or even just a few years. That's not a guaranteed sign that you were with a narcissist, but it's certainly an indicator. So why do they stalk? Well, they have OCD minds. They're very obsessive compulsive and they want to figure out what you're up to. They feel like with whatever source of supply that they had, they feel like they own you. You are an object to them. So, they're curious about their appliances. They want to figure out what their Maytag is up to, right? So they love the idea of you struggling and miserable. They really love that. They want to see you struggling and miserable. They want to see you broken. They get off on it. It feeds their ego because it makes them feel important and, remember, and control. They love this idea that they're powerful, they're important, and that they have some control over your emotions. And remember, they feed on other people's emotions because they're like empty inside, right? So they're going to feed on either positive, feedback or negative. It doesn't really matter. They're going to feed on those. So they love to see that that you're struggling, you're miserable, you're having a hard time. Remember, they do this thing called splitting. So you are either all good or all bad. It's black and white. They do not see the nuances of people. They do not see that people are complicated, that they can be good and bad, and they can have a mix of all that. So in their minds, they demonize you. And keep in mind, they may not do this to their flying monkeys. They may not be telling their flying monkeys that you're, the devil, or they may not be sharing this with their flying monkeys, especially if they're more of the subtle, perfectionistic, passive aggressive, like covert narcissists. They might just be acting like they really pity you and they're really worried about you and really concerned, right? But internally they hate you, right? They demonize you because if you leave them, if you have the audacity to leave them once they lie, cheat, steal, then you're all bad in their minds. And then remember, this is also about dodging the shame. They have this inability to take any personal responsibility. They do not do any introspection or self-reflection. So they have to put it back on the victim. And they're all about avoiding shame, avoiding responsibility, avoiding taking any responsibility for the harms they cause. So if you're the bad guy, then they get to be the victim. They get to be the good guy, the innocent bystander. They don't know why this is happening to them. They don't know why they just keep burning up their life. They don't understand, they don't understand, even though they cheated, they gaslighted, they lied, they psychologically tortured. They just don't get it, right? So they do tend to cyberstalk. They sometimes, there's some new domestic violence laws out there they're talking about, and some information that's talking about like 80% of domestic violence offenders are actually stalkers, right? And sometimes they're cyber stalkers, sometimes they stalk in real life. It's really scary, but these days the cyber stalking can be to the point where they have access to, they can install software, spyware, where they have access to, all the text messages or phone calls that you're making on your telephone. They can have access to your computer. And sometimes it requires actually, getting a hold of those devices. And then other times it can be done remotely. So it's like very, very frightening. Obviously, all of the spyware is totally illegal, but this is, quite possible if you're with a narcissist, especially one that's good with computers. You have no idea. They may be reading your text messages. They may be listening in on your phone conversations. I'm not telling you this to make you paranoid or to freak you out. I'm just telling you just so you're aware. This is real. There's a lot of, there's a lot of information on domestic violence websites about this issue. And remember, everything is about control for them. So they do not, in their minds, they own you. They're never going to let you go. Even if you're like, do want nothing to do with them, they still want the power to be able to abuse and manipulate you. And remember, you're not dealing with a normal, emotionally healthy person. You're dealing with somebody who has the emotional maturity of a toddler, right? They're incredibly emotionally immature. And, they sort of feed off your pain, especially the more malignant ones. Some of the other narcissists don't necessarily feed off your pain. They just don't care because they don't have any empathy or remorse. Others actually get off on it, kind of runs the gamut. Remember, they feel like victims. They cannot, they're the victim. They don't understand. This is just happening to them. To their flying monkeys, you must have been a super ogre because they just don't understand. They were so perfect in their relationship and they don't understand what they did, why you left, Meanwhile, again, lying, cheating, gaslighting, silent treatment, stonewalling, passive aggressive, punishing. You don't even know what you're being punished for. And remember, they really probably believe that they're victims. Like, it's not even that they're just playing the victim. I think a lot of them, especially the covert, vulnerable, insecure, passive ones, I think that they actually feel legitimately like they are being victimized. Because remember, they have this sort of, the vulnerable narcissists have this sort of, this idea that they're being victimized, that they're being tormented and that they're being singled out, right? So they have this persecution complex and they absolutely have an inability to accept any personal responsibility or anything that's perceived as criticism. So they're very, very touchy to criticism, and they can't forgive. So these people are full of resentments. And what you'll find often is, if you're the scapegoat, if you're their spouse that they've decided is their target, you are going to be blamed for all of their years of resentment. So they could have had parents that were abusive or neglectful or emotionally vacant, emotionally unavailable, distant, shut down, unloving. And all the pain that they inflicted on that narcissist, or past relationships where somebody maybe hurt the narcissist, they are going to put all of that onto you. You are going to, if you're the latest victim or you're the latest person that is dumb enough to be with them, sorry guys, I shouldn't say that because I was dumb enough. But if you're the latest, their latest main primary source of supply, they are going to dump all of their years of resentment onto you because they do not have this ability to move past resentment and to forgive and to go and confront people that they resent and to set boundaries around things so that they don't have resentments. They're unable to process that. So they have all of these years of built up resentments that they've never let go of. And again, if you're the latest, supply, or for sure if you cause narcissistic injury by exposing them, like you are going to be their scapegoat, right? So you know, again, that's this whole thing of like that's just part of the whole dynamic with the narcissist, is that, you know, they're never going to let you go. They're holding on to those resentments, and they have this unforgiveness, and they want to know what you're doing in your life. So preferably they want to know that you are, you know, living on the streets, in a brown paper box, begging for change. They want to know that that without them you're nothing, and that they've literally destroyed you. Again, especially the malignant ones, they literally get off on your destruction. They want you to be, just a squirming mass on the ground. They love it. They feed on other people's pain. Normal, emotionally healthy people that have empathy do not feed on other people's pain. They do not get off on other people's pain. They feel bad when other people are hurting and suffering, even if it's people that they're upset with. Like, they do not, it doesn't feed them. It's really gross. So I'm so sorry if you've been through this, but yeah, the stalking, they don't let you go. They do not want to lose a good source of supply. To them, you're just an object. You're like, they have a whole harem of, narcissistic supply, and they don't want to lose you, especially if you are a really good source. And if you created a narcissistic injury, then they are going to probably hate you for the rest of their life, because they don't let go of resentment. So they're always going to be like stalking you to try to figure out what you're up to, and to try to see like, if you're doing worse without them. That's their whole goal, is they just want to make sure that you're just suffering. And what's really sad is because if you have children with them, or if you have stepchildren, like, maybe those children are also going to suffer if like their other parent is, hurting in some way emotionally, or not doing as well financially, or whatever the reason. Inadvertently, these narcissists are really hurting children in the process of this, inability, or this, joy they get at other people's suffering. So it's just really yucky. But if you've been stalked, if you're being stalked, I guess some tips I could give, and maybe I should do another video on that, but I would get rid of your phone. I would get a new phone. I would have a computer shop look for any spyware that might be on your computer. You might even want to get a new computer. I would change all of your passwords. I would change all of your credit cards. I mean, it would just be really careful about any information that the narcissist has, because they're stalkers, and they're just amazing at cyberstalking. They're going to stalk you on Facebook, Instagram, Venmo, LinkedIn. They're just going to stalk you. It's really whacked. So I'm so sorry if that happened to you. And, again, you might not even know that that's happening. You might not even know that they're stalking, but they do it because they just want to check in. And, likely with all their past partners, like they've probably been stalking all those people all these years. So it's quite likely. I think unless you cause like a really bad narcissistic injury, maybe they go away permanently. I'm not sure, but if you've been stalked, I'm sorry. It's pretty common. So I'll try to do some more videos on this. I'm going to try to do a little bit more research, and maybe suggest some ideas of how to protect yourself from these stalkers. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.